20 seconds. 20 seconds now. 10.
Bismillah, Brother Mahmoud.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها وسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء فبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء فبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحت كل اسم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النغم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلذل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا اللهم أسألك سؤال من اشتدت فوقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحه ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي وتجرعت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فاضح من البلاء أقلت وكم من إثار بغيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أحلا له نشرت. اللهم عظم بلاؤي وأفرت بي سوء حولي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد عملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعوجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلباتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. فكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور معطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى فأسعده على ذلك الغضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك فخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك فألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك فقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي مؤتذرا ناظما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا مؤترفا لو أجد مفرا مما كون مني فلو مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك أدري فإدخالك إياه في سعة رحمتك اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد مثاوي يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي يوما بدع خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي أبني لابتداء كرمك وسولف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنورك بعد توحيدك وبعد من تبع عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك فاعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك حيات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من أغويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته بليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا فبشكرك ماضحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى ضمائر حبت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جبورها سعت إلى أوتون تعبدك طائعة فأشعرت باستغفارك مذئنا ما هكذا الظن بك فلا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب فأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثوف يسير بغاؤه كثير مدته فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل بقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته فيدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لو يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك فهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الهغير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي لهليم العذاب وشدة حمل طول البلاء ومدته ولئن سيرتني إلى العقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النور ورجاوي أفتوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الهاولي ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولأنودينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية أمول العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذوق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وخبث بين أتباعها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيج معمل لرحمتك فيناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتبسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يغرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه أم كيف يتغلغل بين أتباعها وأنت تعلم صدقه أم كيف تزجره زبونيتها وهو يناديك يا رب أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما أوملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك، فباليقين أعتوا لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهدي، وقضيت به من إخلاص معاندي، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، فما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، فأنت جل ثناؤك. قلت مبتدعا وتتملت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كون مؤمنا كمن كون فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تحبلي في حوضه الليلة وفي حوضه السوء كل جرم أجرمت وكل ذنب أذنبت وكل قبيح أسررت وكل جهل عملت، كتمته أو أعلنت، أخفيته أو أظهرت، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، فكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم، والشاهد لما خفي منهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، فأن توفر هذي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر، يا رب 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 يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومولك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب، أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورا وبخدمتك موصولا، وأعمالي عندك مقبولا، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا ووحدا وحولي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يوما عليه مؤولي يوما إليه شكوت أحوالي يا رب 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 رب على خدمتك جواره واشدد على العزيمة جواره وحبلي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في البارزين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنب منك دنب المخلصين وأخوفك مخوفة الموقنين وأجتمع في جبورك مع المؤمنين اللهم بمن عرضني بسوء فأعرف ومن كودني فكد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نسيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينول ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك واعتف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما فمن علي بحسن إجابتك وأغلني أثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك غضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا رب نسبت وجهي فإليك يا رب مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطوعته غنى ارحم من رأسه موله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا صابر النعم يا دافع النقم يا نور المستبحشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله صلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من حوله وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد. Please recite Surah Fatiha for all the marhumin that passed away. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله الصمد لم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الصمد لم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يولد ولم يكن له.
Jazakallah, Brother Mahmoud, for the beautiful recitation. Now we will switch to Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله brother. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الخطبة الثلاثون. لو أمرت به لكنت قاتلا أو نهيت عنه لكنت ناصرا. غير أن من نصره لا يستطيع أن يقول خذله من أنا خير منه، ومن خذله لا يستطيع أن يقول نصره من هو خير مني. Khutbah number 30 had an introduction that we had for it last week, and that was that the whole story of Uthman and Uthman's death, what led up to the people revolting against Uthman, what mistakes were made. There were different things that we had listed there. Number one was that some of the laws of God were trampled. One of those items was the fact that the only criterion for people to run the show during his time was that he would look to see if they are related to him or not, especially in the second 6 years of his khilafah and rule over the Muslim lands. And so things like this, plus the financial, economic problems that were arising and corruption really that was showing itself everywhere across the Muslim lands, the people really couldn't take it any longer. And we talked about some of those details. Now, that was necessary for this part of the Nahjul Balagha, which is khutbah number 30, in which Imam Ali, he says a few lines about Uthman, in which you can understand the very sensitive situation Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam was in regarding Uthman. And I have some comments, of course, at the end as well, once we go through this, inshallah, in regards to why this was such a sensitive time in that history of Islam. So, as we all know, Uthman eventually, after his palace or wherever he was staying was raided, and he was killed, we know that Imam Ali became Khalifa, and of course there was a lot of fitna that surrounded the death of Uthman. And so people would ask Imam Ali alayhi salam about Uthman and what he thinks about it, and why he took certain stances maybe, or didn't take certain stances, and so on. So here it seems that he is answering the question of somebody who had, and some of the commentators of Nahjul Balagha have said this, that he is answering someone who brought up this idea of Imam Ali and other Sahaba even not helping Uthman the way they should have. And so Amir al-Mu'minin is answering this person who is bringing up this question. According, of course, to, as I said, some commentators have said that this khutbah is actually a response to someone who had brought this up. Nonetheless, whatever it is, what we're sure is that we can tell that Imam Ali alayhi salam was in that sensitive position and situation. So he says, لَوْ أَمَرْتُ بِهِ لَكُنْتُ قَاتِلًا. All right, so Uthman has been killed eventually as Khalifatul Muslimin. A very old man he was when he died. And Amir al-Mu'mineen says, listen, if I had given commands for him to, be assaulted, then I would have been a qatil, right? I would have been a murderer. I would have, been guilty of a crime like this, okay? And of course, I can't do that. Because on one hand, people are saying, why didn't Imam Ali say anything against Uthman? And stand with the revolutionaries or rioters or whatever you want to call them. On the other hand, he says, أَوْ نَهَيْتُ عَنْهُ لَكُنْتُ نَاصِرًا. There's a problem. If I had ordered for something to happen, I would have been part of the crime. I would have had to partaken in the crime. And if I had forbade the people and told them not to do what they're doing, I would have been seen as لَكُنْتُ نَاصِرًا. I would have been seen as someone who's on Uthman's side trying to help him. So you see, brothers and sisters, we're stuck here. We are stuck. We're stuck with what? We're stuck with no matter what we do, there's going to be a problem. Now, someone might say, why didn't Amir al-Mu'mineen just stay away from all of it altogether and not get involved at all, like some of the other Sahaba? Well, he couldn't for maybe more than two reasons, but I'll explain two reasons here. Number one, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he has been helping the previous khulafa, those who preceded him. For what reason? For the preservation of Islam. Imam Ali alayhi salam looks to see what the wisest thing to do in a given scenario is, and he tries to take that path. And when you have a little bit of anarchy taking place in the Muslim world, he feels that he's not supposed to step away and just let things happen whichever way they go. Yeah, he wants to help out as much as he can here, and so he was the in-between person between the rioters and Uthman. Okay. Now, of course, when we use the word rioters, it might not be the best term to use here. Some will call them revolutionaries. Some will call them rioters. But the ones who were upset and angry with the situation that they were in, that the Banu Umayyah had imposed upon the people of that time. Anyway, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is going to get involved for that reason, number one. And number two, and more importantly, he sees that if he doesn't help at all, if he doesn't get involved at all, there will be something that will happen that is unprecedented and is going to cause major issues moving forward, and that is the assassination of the Khalifa of the Muslimin. At the end of the day, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with him or not, he is the third Khalifa of the Muslims, Uthman is. And so he has to make sure that, nothing gets too out of control here. And so he is involved. But when you get involved in something, brothers and sisters, inevitably people will have their own take on that. They will sometimes label you in any way they feel that they need to label you as. And so things like this will happen where you're stuck, really. You don't know what to do, what to say, how to do it. And so Amir al-Mu'mineen here is kind of explaining, look, I couldn't just walk away. I couldn't just say, yeah, let's go for Uthman, because then I'm a qatil. I'm a killer myself. I'm a murderer myself. I can't do that. And at the same time, I couldn't tell the people to stay away and not be angry and just forbid them from anything they want to do, because that would also be a problem, because these people have every right to be upset. I understand where they're coming from, as if Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying. And so what did I do? I took that middle ground of, trying to just keep things as calm as possible. All right, so now this is his stance, right? As we all know, Uthman has been killed. Some helped him, some didn't help him. Some were involved in his killing, some were not. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, I do have to say one thing though, in all of this, after all of that craziness, there's one thing I'll say. He says, look, غير أن من نصره لا يستطيع أن يقول خذله من أنا خير منه. He makes a very important point here that I want to talk about a little bit. He's you can say very smart with his words here, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Okay? That he says, He says, I just have one thing to say though, and that is that the one who helped Uthman and aided him cannot say that those who deserted him are lower than me, right? I'm better than the ones who deserted him. This is very important. I want you to pay attention to this. I'll repeat it. He says the ones who aided Uthman cannot say that I am better than those who deserted him. Oh, wow. Okay. He says that's one thing I have to say. And I want to say something else too. Okay, well, you're probably thinking to yourself now, okay, Amir al-Mu'minin said one thing. He'll probably say the exact opposite of it as well to have covered both sides of this situation. Okay. Number one, he says the ones who aided Uthman cannot say they're better than the ones who deserted him. So he's probably going to now say, and those who deserted him also aren't supposed to say that they're better than the ones who aided him. In other words, those who aided him were kind of in the wrong, and those who deserted him were also kind of in the wrong. He doesn't say it like that though. Which from here you can kind of get Amir al-Mu'minin's stance towards Uthman. Okay? So he says that first line that I've already explained like 3-4 times. The ones who, or I repeated 3 or 4 times. The ones who aided him cannot say they're better than the ones who deserted him. But then he finishes it off with this line. He says, and the ones who deserted him and didn't help him, okay, not necessarily the ones who killed him, but no, the ones who didn't help him, they cannot say that the ones who were better than us were the ones who helped him. 2 lines Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam says here, but they're not the opposites of each other. They're saying the exact same thing, well, just with different wording. Very, very smart how he said it here, Amir al-Mu'minin. All right? They're both saying the same thing, just different wording. He is saying that the ones who, the same message that is being sent by these 2 lines is that the ones who helped Uthman and aided him are not better than the ones who deserted him. He said that in 2 ways. Okay? For those of you who need one more repetition of these 2 lines. Number 1, he said, the ones who aided him are not better than the ones who deserted him. Number 2, the ones who deserted him can't say that the ones who aided Uthman are better than us. In other words, the ones who aided him are not better than the ones who deserted him. You would think that Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's trying to show that he's in the middle. So he'll say both the ones who aided and the ones who deserted are both in bad shape. But he didn't say that. He only put his finger on one side of the story. He said the ones who aided are not better than the ones who deserted. Very, very interesting here. And so with this, you can kind of understand what Amir al-Mu'mineen is trying to get at here, that he has problems with the way the Khilafah had dealt with the Muslims and the Muslim lands of that time. Now someone here might say, but okay, Amir al-Mu'mineen said, if I had forbade the people, then I would have been seen as a Nasir, as someone who is an aid and is on the side of Uthman, and I didn't want that. And in other words, so I didn't forbid the people. But someone might say, but he did. He was always telling the people to calm down and all of that. So why do you say he didn't forbid them? He did forbid them. Here, the answer to this is one of 2 things they've said. That if Imam Ali in this khutbah is saying that I did not forbid the people, because if I had, I would have been seen as a Nasir, as an aid, as being on the side of Uthman. Yeah. When he says that, he either means that I didn't forbid the people. What type of forbidding? A practical forbidding. Meaning what? Meaning I didn't go to the door of Uthman. draw my sword against the ones who want to storm the palace, okay, the residence of Uthman. I didn't stand at the door and stop people practically. Yes? So when he says, I didn't forbid the people, it's either that, or when he says, I didn't forbid the people, it means that he didn't say, hey, people, don't kill the third Khalifa, but rather he kept telling the people, listen, people, let's stay calm here. Let's not get out of control. Let's not let our emotions and our anger get the best of us, etc., etc. Okay, so when he says, I didn't forbid the people, someone might point out that, well, in history we find that he was trying to stop things. We'll say that yes, forbidding has different grades and degrees. Some degrees of it he didn't do, but at the end of the day he was trying to keep things as calm as possible and trying to fix things up. Now we'll get into some details, inshallah, if we have time, of how he tried to do that, or what his role exactly was in all of this. وَأَنَا جَامِعٌ لَكُمْ أَمْرَهُ. If I'm going to sum it all up for you regarding why Uthman got killed and why that which befell him, this is what I can tell you. Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying in this khutbah, استأثر فأساء الأثرة or الأثرة وجزعتم فأسأتم الجزع. He says, look, let me tell you why things went downhill the way they did. Let me sum it all up for you in a nutshell. This is what happened. He messed up and all of you messed up. In a nutshell, that's what he says. He overdid it. He transgressed when it came to rulership and the exclusivism that he exhibited and exercised in his rulership, how he did things, how he took control of everything, etc. That was bad, and he did a bad job at that. فَأَسَاءَ الْأَثَرَ. Number one. But then you all, the people, those who went against him, you all also, what did you do? جَزَعْتُمْ. You were very upset with him. You had jaza'. فَأَسَأْتُمُ الْجَزَعْ. But you did it in a bad way. Your jaza' manifested in a very bad way. How is that? It manifested in the assassination of Uthman. It shouldn't have happened like that. Yeah? What you should have done, maybe, right, instead of going overboard and spilling his blood, is you should have maybe removed him from power, replaced him with someone else, and so on. Now here in history, you will have that the people were bringing Imam Ali's name, and that was causing some problems for Imam Ali even before they killed Uthman. And Uthman had Imam Ali leave the city, and then he had him come back, and then wanted him to leave again. We have a letter that says that Imam Ali is speaking to Ibn Abbas in his letter, and that's letter number 6 of Nahjul Balagha. There he's saying that, yeah, he had me leave Medina, go out, because why? Because people were talking about Imam Ali. They wanted him, even before they had taken the life of Uthman. And this caused problems for him. And so he had gone out of Medina, but then he came, they told him to come back. Uthman had him come back again. And then again wanted him to leave, and so on. And we'll get to a part of that letter that we need for this session and this part of the khutbah, or this khutbah actually. So anyway, the people wanted someone else, and most probably it was Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. All right, well, you should have done something like that. Now, Imam Ali isn't going to say that. He's not going to say you should have put me instead of him. He says, look, instead of taking his life, you should have removed him from power and maybe found someone else, right? But you overdid things. And so that's going to cause major, major issues for the Muslim Ummah moving forward. Now, we have an idea here, or we get an idea of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, his stance regarding Uthman, just through these words. The way he is not outright condemning it. He understands where the people were coming from, why they were so upset. He understands that. And so from the wording, we know exactly, not exactly, but we know where, approximately where Imam Ali is when it comes to this matter. Now, I want to just read off of some of the things that we have in this regard For example, it says here that Imam Ali, the position he had in the hearts of the people and the people who were rioting, yeah, it was the reason why Uthman reached out to him for help. Okay. So he asked Imam Ali for help and so on. Even when they have surrounded the residence of Uthman, he asks Imam Ali for help. It reaches a point that Imam Ali, he sends his son Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam to go and protect the home of Uthman and the residence of Uthman. This actually is very interesting. It's in, now according to what I'm reading here, Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya of Ibn Kathir. And some of you might be familiar with how his ideology is, but he also mentions that, yeah, Imam al-Hasan was hurt in this whole thing as well. And, as Shia, we're always hearing this story of how Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Imam Ali kind of used them to maybe calm things down. And so he sent them, and the people, it still apparently didn't work. And so it reaches a point where when they have surrounded this residence of Uthman, they cut off the water to his home. And so here also Uthman gets help from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. And this is in history that Amir al-Mu'minin was the one who would get water to Uthman and so on. Now it's unfortunate because later on, one of the reasons why, according to Ibn Ziyad, Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala should not have water is because, na'udhu billah, because Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam is one of the reasons why water never reached Uthman when he was surrounded by the rioters, when his home was surrounded. This is very sad that you do what you have to do, and yet people they will not acknowledge what you've done for the cause. Anyway, this is not a surprise to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam, it says here, he would keep trying to give him good advice, Uthman, on how to deal with these rioters. He would also speak to the rioters, make sure that they know what they're doing wrong. Yes. He would scold them, the rioters, and say, what you're doing is wrong. The fact that you are actually depriving Uthman of food and water. Yes, and this is something that is not befitting of a mu'min to do. These are things that he brought up to these rioters. Okay, and so on and so forth. I will also read some more from other books that we have for you. So, for example, Mawsu'atu Tarikh al-Islami. It's a famous book. Those of you who know, you know. I just want to read for you one of the reports here that we have where it is a little long, but I hope I can go through it as quick as possible. It just shows how much trust Uthman has in Ali ibn Abi Talib, in him being able to, the only one maybe who can help him. It says that when Uthman saw that, Mara'a, he came to, now this is before the siege has actually taken place. So Uthman is free to roam around still. It says he came to the home of Ali alayhi salam when he saw that, okay, things are kind of getting out of hand here and are snowballing out of control. He comes to Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, says, Ya ibn Am, oh cousin, we have a relationship, we're close to each other. فَلِي عَلَيْكَ حَقٌّ عَظِيمٌ. So I have a great haqq upon you. That means what? That means you have to help me. I need your help now. He says, وَقَدْ جَاءَ مَا تَرَى مِنْ هَؤُلَاءِ الْقَوْمِ. As you can see, the people are now coming after me, kind of. I'm getting in trouble slowly. And, they're going to reach me like tomorrow morning. And I know that you have a high position in their eyes, okay? And they'll listen to you. I need you to go to them and like repel them from me and change that, do something so they change their mind. I don't want this to happen, etc., etc. What does Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam say? He says, look, I've spoken to you before more than once about these issues. He says, وَكُلُّ ذَلِكَ فِعْلُ مَرْوَانَ. Look, why you're suffering right now, why you're in trouble right now, all right? It's all because of Marwan ibn al-Hakam, your son-in-law, and others. Sa'id ibn al-As al-Umawi, he was also of Banu Umayyah. Abdullah bin Amr, Muawiyah, these people. أَطَعْتَهُمْ وَعَصَيْتَنِي. But look, I've told you all these issues. You know what the problem is. You know what the source and root of the problem and what's getting you in trouble is. Yet you أَطَعْتَهُمْ, you obeyed them, and what? وَعَصَيْتَنِي, and you disobey me. You don't go by what I'm telling you, unfortunately. So then Uthman says, all right, no problem. From now on, I won't listen to them and I'll listen to you. Okay? So this shows the amount of trust that Uthman has in Ali ibn Abi Talib, and this is what history has recorded and has reached us, that, okay, this is the stance Ali has practically. He's like, look, I've already tried to help you, and even now, okay, you want me to help you? And Uthman says, yeah, I'm going to listen to you from now on. This shows that amount of trust. All right, if Ali ibn Abi Talib was problematic in all of this, Uthman would be the first one not to trust him. If he trusts someone like Marwan, it's because Marwan is Banu Umayyah. Marwan is his son-in-law. But with Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, no, these guys are, they're rivals. The Bani Hashim and Bani Umayyah, they've always been rivals, So when he trusts Ali alayhi salam, it shows that no, there was a reason for him to trust him. It's not just something that, Ali alayhi salam later on is going to tell the people that, oh people, I tried my best to help him out. Why was he chosen as the in-between person? I'm spending time on this and I'm emphasizing this. Why? Because later on everyone said, Ali, you're the one who killed Uthman. Banu Umayyah later came out and said, he did this, so what happens? So that he takes power. He was the one who cut off water from Uthman. His people are the ones who killed Uthman, etc., etc. Very unfortunate. So 2 parts of Nahjul Balagha I want to share with you, and a little bit from another history book as well, so that we understand exactly where Imam Ali alayhi salam stood in all of this. So as I pointed out earlier, letter number 6 of Nahjul Balagha is a letter to Muawiyah. And in that, I might have mistakenly said a letter to Ibn Abbas. Sorry, I mistook that with something else that I want to share with you. Letter number 6 is a letter to Muawiyah. Khutbah number 240 is him speaking to Ibn Abbas. Ali alayhi salam speaking to Ibn Abbas. So we'll get to that later. I confused those two. Anyway, letter number 6 of Nahjul Balagha is a letter to Muawiyah, in which Ali alayhi salam, one part of it, he says, وَلَعَمْرِ يَا مُعَاوِيَةَ لَإِن نَظَرْتَ بِعَقْلِكَ دُونَ هَوَاكَ لَتَجِدَنِّي أَبْرَأَ النَّاسِ مِنْ دَمِ عُثْمَانَ. He says, look, if you use your aql a little bit, if you use your mind a little bit, and don't just listen to your nafs, yes, and your desires, you'll find that my hands are the cleanest when it comes to the blood of Uthman. I have none of that blood on my hands. وَلَتَعْلَمَنَّ أَنِّي كُنْتُ فِي عُزْلَةٍ عَنْهُ. And you'll know that I had isolated myself from him. I was not getting involved in anything that had to do with his assassination. Yeah. إِلَّا أَن تَتَجَنَّى. Unless what you want to do right now is falsely accuse me of being involved in the spilling of the blood of Uthman. Right? So he's answering Muawiyah in a letter and explaining to Muawiyah that, look, if you think about it, I had nothing to do with it. But if you're just trying to make a false accusation and get away with it, that's a different story. So here he's clearly saying that I had nothing to do with it. I had isolated myself from all of this nonsense. Khutbah number 240. He's speaking to Ibn Abbas. This is very important. He says in this part, this is the part that I need. I'm skipping some parts of it. He says, Wallah, by Allah, لَقَدْ دَفَعْتُ عَنْهُ حَتَّى خَشِيتُ أَنْ أَكُونَ آثِمًا. This is interesting wording here that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is using. He says, by Allah, I defended him. دَفَعْتُ عَنْهُ. Defended him. Of course, defended him not by the sword, but defended him in, trying to help him out as much as he could. Brothers and sisters, let me say this before I go on. Like, Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, without a doubt, everyone knows, had a lot of respect amongst the people. Okay? He had a lot of respect amongst the people. And a sign of that is the fact that right when Uthman was killed, they all came and made him Khalifa. Okay? If Ali alayhi salam, with all that respect that he has, cannot drive you away from the residence of Uthman, cannot stop you with his words from taking the life of the third Khalifa, then you must have really, really done a lot of things that really got on the people's nerves. He says, look, I defended him so much, hatta khashit an akuna athiman. It reached a point where I felt like, okay, I might be actually doing wrong. It might be a sin for me to continue. He says, I reached the point where I feared that it's a sin for me to defend any more than this. Either because his own life would get in danger, the life of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein would get in danger, or that it would just be seen that Imam Ali is more on the side of Uthman and justifying the actions of Uthman versus being on the side of the people. Whatever it is, what we know for sure, according to these words of khutbah number 240, Ali alayhi salam feels like there is no justification anymore to be in the middle of all of this. But look, what was the threshold? The threshold was Allah's satisfaction and Allah's wrath for Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. This is very important. That he's going to go to the edge. Of course, the awliyaullah, they're always talking about how we're not supposed to walk on the edge when it comes to God's wrath and God's satisfaction. We're supposed to always try to be in the safe zone. Leave a little bit of cushion and buffer for ourselves, right? Do a little bit of precaution and ihtiyat sometimes, even when that is sanctioned, right? But here he says, I went all the way as far as I could, subhanallah. He says, khashitu an akuna athiman. I was afraid that I might be sinning from here on. So that's where I'm going to stop. Because when it comes to satisfaction of Allah and satisfaction of anyone else, of course, Ali ibn Abi Talib is going to prefer the satisfaction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no question there. All right. Let me also read a few excerpts from Shaykh Rasul Ja'fariyan's book here, which has also been translated to English. Okay. And of course, Rasul Ja'fariyan is, he's a big name when it comes to history as well. In his book of Tarikh al-Khulafa, I'm going to read to you 3 or 4 things that he also mentions here. Some I might have said already, maybe 1 or 2 of them. Or let's see, let's go through it and see. It says, one time Imam Ali was asked, alayhi salam, that were you involved in the killing of Uthman? What was his answer? He says, Allah is the one who took Uthman's life or killed Uthman. And I am with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with what Allah wants. Wow. You see, it's not all rosy and stuff here, brothers and sisters. Did I want him to get killed? No. And maybe this is a good explanation of what I just read of khutbah 240, where he says, I was afraid that from here on it's going to be a sin. Well, if we put this last excerpt that I read, or this last hadith that I read for you, or report that I read for you, if we put this next to khutbah number 240, it might become clear why Imam Ali alayhi salam was afraid that he's going to be considered a sinner from that point on. I guess we can say, based on this report, of course, that Imam Ali noticed that, okay, this is it, like Uthman is going to be killed. And this is God's decree, based on his own actions, of course. When something is the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ali ibn Abi Talib is not going to get in the way of it. That's a great sin, to try to change that which Allah has in store for someone. Yes? And of course, let me open a parenthesis here. This doesn't mean we have to stop trying doing our part in life, okay? But a person like Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he identifies that, okay, this is what is going to happen. And if I try to stop it any more than this, then I'm getting in the way of the decree of Allah and other things are going to go bad. He's like, okay, let's let go of this now, right? He's not going to go pull out his sword, yes, draw his sword and start fighting still. No, that's where I'm going to stop, okay? So here it says, Allah killed Uthman, and I am with Allah. You see, once again, he's being very, very smart with his words. He's not saying I was pro Uthman assassination. He's saying I am pro whatever Allah wants, and it reached the point where Allah wanted him to be assassinated or killed, and that's where I stand, of course, if that's what Allah wanted. Okay. This one I'm going to read the it says here Uyun al-Akhbar, volume 2, page 207. Okay. Some will accept these reports, some might reject them, but I'll read the references as well, just so we can try to be as impartial as possible. But a person like Ja'farian brings it in his book. Another report. He says, I did not like the killing of Uthman, and I didn't dislike it either. Now, of course, here it's not because of a personal grudge, of course. Someone might say, very simply, will say that, and naively, will say, yeah, Ali ibn Abi Talib had some beef with Uthman, and so, because he took the Khilafah after Umar, and so, I have issues with him, so that's why I didn't dislike his assassination. No, it seems that Ali alayhi salam would not like the assassination of Uthman because it wasn't to the benefit of Islam and the Muslim Ummah in that sense. And we'll talk about that a little bit more after I read these. That how the Ummah was affected by all of this, although I have pointed to this before as well. All right, so that's another one. That's according to the book I have in front of me, Ansab al-Ashraf, volume 5, page 101. And Tabaqat al-Kubra, volume 3, page 82. So this report is there. I didn't like it and I didn't dislike the assassination. Another report says that the assassination of Uthman didn't make me happy, nor did it make me sad. That's also interesting. It says here, Tarikh al-Madinah al-Munawwara, volume 3, page 1263. ما أمرت ولا نهيت ولا سرني ولا أساءني, or ولا ساءني قتل عثمان. I didn't order for it. I didn't get in the way of it. It didn't make me happy. It didn't make me upset. Total neutrality, it seems. But in a case like this, brothers and sisters, I do have to say, this is my own take now. I have to say that when something like this is happening, if you're going to be totally neutral, it shows that you're kind of okay with it too. And that you feel that it's not a big deal if it happens. In other words, you feel like, there's no way out of it. Let's say it like that, okay? That's how I'll say it. There's like no way out of it, and what can you do? And as I said, he's not going to draw the sword either. All right. Another report says that in another place, he said Imam Ali alayhi salam had referred to Uthman as Hamalul Khataya, the bearer of grand mistakes, or the bearer of mistakes. In other words, it's these mistakes that were weighing down on him. It was these mistakes that were weighing down on him that got him in trouble, right? So it's not like he was innocent or anything either. No, he was guilty. But did Ali alayhi salam feel like the punishment needs to be carried out for assassination? He would have preferred that didn't happen. All right. Another one here, or that one was Hamad al-Khataya. That's Sharh Nahjul Balagha of Ibn Abi al-Hadid, volume 9, page 17. All right. And finally, the last one that I want to share with you before I move on, it says that he was asked once, that was Uthman killed madhloom, innocent and oppressed? What was his answer? He says that he sacrificed himself for his people, for his family. Here it says Ahlul Bayt. So I'm guessing for his relatives. The fact that he paid the price for all of the Banu Umayyah coming to power across the Muslim lands. Okay, so he says he made a very bad sacrifice of himself for his relatives. That's how I'll translate it. And you all as well dealt with him in a bad way. So once again, Imam Ali alayhi salam is not agreeing with the way they dealt with him. But all in all, he's saying, don't say that he's madhloom either. He points that out and implies that in this one. And this one comes from Nathrud Dur, volume 1, page 274, Al-Aghani, volume 6, page 233. And also here, it says Nahjul Balagha of Abdu, khutbah 29. All right. So that's that. Now, finally, I want to end with this, that the assassination of Uthman, brothers and sisters, it caused a major problems for the Muslim Ummah. You know, we talked about this before as well, that the death, and not the death, but the assassination of Uthman really, at least in my very, very humble opinion, is the reason why everything snowballed out of control. And I personally feel that if Imam Ali alayhi salam had become fourth Khalifa after Uthman had died a natural death, Ali ibn Abi Talib would have lived a long enough life to be able to make a lot of changes that were necessary and take things back to the way they were supposed to be, which is being in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But unfortunately, things got out of control. Why? Because of the whole story of an excuse of the blood of Uthman. From there on, others made mistakes. The Battle of Jamal took place. After the Battle of Jamal takes place, right, for the first time ever, you have a civil war. For the first time ever, you have big people with big names, big Sahaba, against another Sahabi, which is also great, right? You have Talha, Zubair, Aisha against Ali ibn Abi Talib. So this now, the ice has been broken here. The ice has been broken. You can fight the Khalifa of your time, it seems. And so that gives enough of an excuse for Muawiyah to fight in the Battle of Siffin. The Battle of Siffin, in turn, causes the arbitration and gets on the nerves of the Khawarij, although they were the ones who imposed tahkim on Ali ibn Abi Talib. And since they're angry, they want to get Ali back, they want to get Muawiyah back, and so they assassinate Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. They fail at assassinating Muawiyah. Once Imam Ali is assassinated, then everything is going to be out of control. Muawiyah is uncontested ruler. Imam al-Hasan is marginalized, etc., etc., etc. All of this because of the assassination of Uthman. True, we have that first Saqifa that happened after the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we as Shia believe that Imam Ali alayhi salam, we believe that Imam Ali should have been first Khalifa, and his right was usurped in all of that. True, all of that happened. True, we're upset about that. But brothers and sisters, as I said, very humbly, I say that even if after Abu Bakr Umar came, after Umar Uthman came, still there was a good chance that Ali alayhi salam would have done what he needed to do. He says it himself in Nahjul Balagha. He says, if I didn't have to deal with all of this turmoil, لَغَيَّرْتُ أَشْيَاء, I would have changed things. He himself is saying, I would have changed things. I would have made things better. But when you kill Uthman, when you have his blood shed, anyone who's going to come after him, right, is going to have to clean up a mess and put out a lot of fires. It's very unfortunate, especially if that person is going to be from Banu Hashim by the name of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Yes? And it's very unfortunate, but it happened. And Ali, also in Nahjul Balagha, had predicted this and had predicted this through the prophecy of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and told Uthman this, that the Prophet ﷺ had said that after me, a person will be killed, after which there will be bloodshed amongst the Ummah till Yawmul Qiyamah. He told this to Uthman according to Nahjul Balagha. He said, don't be that person who loses his life and whose blood is shed. And as a result, all of this trouble is going to befall the Muslim Ummah. But we see that this really did happen. And Sadaqa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet was right. Yes, this happened. And so I think if you were to ask me personally, of course, Saqifa is a big deal. But if you were to ask me, what was the problem, game changer, turning point in Islamic history that really messed everything up? Yes, I would say, of course, Saqifa is a problem, but I would say that the assassination of Uthman is going to be way up there on that list, right? It'll be right under Saqifa or maybe a little next to it as well. Let's say 45 degrees under it. Let's say like that, you know? It really is a very, very big deal what happened in this whole assassination of Uthman and what happened afterwards. It's huge. Yes, but I have not seen this explicitly mentioned by others, although my guess is that they would agree that yes, that is a very, very big deal, the assassination of Uthman. All right, so that is khutbah number 30. Khutbah number 30, as I said in our last session, some have said it is part of other khutbahs. Let me just take a look here real quick. Yeah. It says some have said that this is part of a letter that Imam Ali wrote. Some have said that no, it's part of khutbahs 26, 54, 78, and all of that. Once again, Sayyid al-Radi, he takes out different sayings of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, takes parts of them out of his bigger, longer khutbahs or letters. His criterion is eloquence. And so that's why he brought this part of the khutbah as khutbah number 30. A very interesting khutbah in my opinion, very short, but Imam Ali, he really gets the point across that I was neutral, but in my neutrality, yes, I'm not gonna ever take the side of Uthman, and I'm not gonna take the side of assassination either, but I'm not gonna call out the assassination either. Yeah. Or those who deserted Uthman. I won't say that those who helped Uthman are higher and better than those who deserted Uthman. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And my salams to those of you who tuned in tonight. Brother Khurshid, of course, salam to you as usual. Sister Zainab, salam to you as well. Brother Farid. And Sister Suraya is asking, who is the author of Tarikh al-Khulafa? His name is Rasul Ja'fariyan. Yes, and one of the brothers that I know, one of my friends, he has also translated this to English. I think it's called Life of the Messenger. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. It's on Amazon, The Life of the Messenger. So this is part 1. There might be part 2 as well. If I'm not, oh, excuse me. No, this has not been translated to English. So that's a little mistake I made. A Life of Messenger. So Rasul Ja'fariyan has 2 books. One on the history of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and another one on the Khulafa. This one, the one on the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has been translated to English, but since it's kind of long, I'm guessing that they've cut it up into 3 parts. And so part 1 has been translated. Part 2 of the history of the Holy Prophet, also here it says, has been translated by Sayyid Ali Musawi. But I don't see part 3 here. I don't think it's been translated part 3. So I'm guessing that Tarikh al-Khulafa, the part about the Khulafa, has not been translated. So the book itself is in Farsi, and there's also an Arabic translation of it. The English has not come out yet. I hope that answers your question. Thank you all once again. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.